Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Growth Space. My name is David McGlennon, and I'm really excited to bring this podcast episode to you and really glad that you've joined me here today. What I thought I'd do today is just give you an excerpt from one of our Emerging Leader Inner Circle sessions because I thought it'd be helpful for those of you who might wonder what it's like to be a part of the group. Maybe you have a team that you might want to consider it for. And so just to give you some context, I thought I'd give you a peek behind the curtain, as it were. And I guess then too, to give you some context, one of the things that we do, we break it up into quarterly modules. So the first module is all about self-awareness and learning yourself. And then we go into a module around leading yourself, where we teach some skills about leading ourselves, leading our calendars, leading our communication. And then we go into leading others, and we have some topics that we talk about and we teach on, where we help our emerging leaders to think about and practice leading others. And then finally, in our year-long program, we finish with leading through challenges and challenging times. So it's a very robust and comprehensive program. And I really wanted just to bring to you a short teaching today on the power of your purpose, your vision as a leader, and then having those two things bridged by your goals. And so before we get into the episode today, though, let me just encourage you, please go out and subscribe if you aren't already, because we truly have some really great episodes coming up. Coming up, we have former Top Gun instructor Cujo Teschner. That's going to be an amazing episode. We're going to talk about accountability, and you definitely don't want to miss that one, so go subscribe for sure. Also coming up is the former CEO of WD-40, Gary Ridge. He is such an amazing leader. He's an in-demand speaker, and he is frequently quoted by Simon Sinek. And so you know that Simon Sinek is one of my favorites. So I really love the fact that Gary's mantra really is that it's all about the people. So you definitely want to be subscribed for that one. So the other thing I'll tell you about too is that we're preparing a Q&A episode. And we'd like to do it with your voices. So I would love to invite you to, if you have a question, to call in and leave that question, leave your message on our call-in line. And that number is 412-475-9288. And if you just leave your message, leave your question on that recorded line, we may just use your voice and your question for our Q&A episode that's coming up in the future. All right, one last thing. If you get value from this podcast, please share it. We would love for you to be able to share it with somebody else that would get value as well. It's really one way that we can just magnify the impact of leaders and the growth of leaders all around the world. And we just want to make a difference with that. So let's go ahead and we'll get into this episode now with myself teaching the lesson on purpose, vision, and goals to our emerging leaders. All right, well, let's get into today's lesson. Just as a recap and a reminder that our goal here for the first quarter of the year in this program really is all about learning yourself. And so when we learn ourselves, it's really about self-awareness as an important skill that we need as a leader. And today's topic then is all about tapping into that new awareness that you'll have so that you can create your leadership vision from your purpose. And we're going to talk about both of those things. And then your goals will bridge the gap between your vision and your purpose. And so we're going to be talking about that as a leader. I know that you have all created your mission statement, your leadership mission statement. But what we're going to be talking about today is your vision for your life and your leadership. And so I'm going to bring some perhaps counterintuitive ways to think about creating your leadership vision. and finding your purpose then, and using your goals then to really be the person that you see in your vision. And I'm sure that I've said this before, but there's a lot of reasons why I talk a lot about the human mind in this program. We talk about the internal game as a leader because I believe that leadership really is an inside game. And what do I mean by that? So what I mean when I say it's an inside game, I mean that leadership is as much about our own self-awareness and tapping into our own self-awareness and our own self-potential as it is anything else external. And so I want you to walk away today with being able to create a vision for your leadership, creating a vision for your life, and also learning about and understanding what it means to bridge those two things with your goals. And you may or may not be a goal setter. I mean, up until this point, you may not have ever set a goal. You may have set lots of goals. You may be a goal achiever. You may be a goal setter. And there is a difference between those things. But it could be a new way of thinking and maybe even a counterintuitive approach to this whole realm of leadership. So one of the things that I've been just marinating in as we talk about this subject and when we think about how we create anything in our lives, whether we create something that is a goal achievement, whether it's an objective that we're setting and achieving for our companies, our teams perhaps. But I think that we have to first get this understanding that setting your goals really needs to start with your vision and having an imagination in your mind. So let me just invite you then to open up your mind to maybe a new way of thinking. And maybe it's a new way of looking at like setting your goals and actually having a vision that your goals lead you to. And ultimately, this lesson is really, it's a lesson on goal setting. And I'm going to use that language throughout the session. But really what I want to do is affirm your understanding that what we all call goal setting and goal achieving, really, it's a natural process of creation. We all do this. We all do this all the time. It's one of the reasons why I had you do that timeline exercise and take a look at the times in your life when you created success. It's a process of creation. And we do the same thing within our corporate environments. So we create within our teams, within our organizations, and within our own careers as well. And, I can take some examples from my own life, and I'll share with you a couple of stories, because I've achieved a lot of goals in my life. I've achieved a lot of things that I've set out to achieve, and honestly, as long as I can remember, I've been a goal setter, and really, I think I didn't realize this till maybe a little bit later in my life, that what I'm talking about really is the power of using my mind and our minds to imagine a future state, to imagine our future state, and to do it more on purpose, more intentional. So I'll share this example with you because it kind of illustrates the point. At least I think the story will help you. So when I was in the last semester of college, my university days, I had a desire to become a pilot. And I had lived around an airport. It's just a small little regional airport. It was really just an airport where private planes, came in and flew in, landed, took off. And because of that, I could ride my bike to the airport. And I had imagined myself so many times when I see these airplanes taking off and landing and doing touch and goes. I imagine myself in that cockpit, in the cockpit of the airplane, in command of the aircraft, running the checklists and pushing all the buttons and taking off and landing myself. So I could envision that. I could see myself doing that as I was watching these airplanes do their touch and goes and take off and do the things that they do around a small airport like that. Now, the thing I want you to get from that is that we think in pictures, and this is really, really key. So if you think about it, if I ask you to imagine your refrigerator, what color is it? Are there one door, two doors? Are they side by side, top and bottom? What does it look like? You've got a picture in your mind. You don't have a picture of my refrigerator. You've got a picture of your refrigerator. So what we think in pictures. And so that's the thing that I really want you to get from this idea of having a vision, because I didn't think about just the idea of, I want to fly an airplane. I actually put myself in the cockpit. I put myself in the aircraft, and I created that movie in my mind, and I could feel the process of taking off. I could feel the process of running the checklists, and so it all started in my mind, and I believe that this really is the key to this lesson. And I would say this is a key to leadership as well. It's to create a vision, either for our company, for our own leadership, for our lives. It all begins in our minds. We picture it. We picture what our life is going to look like. And so let me just stop for a second and allow you to let that sink in, because I think so many times we think about vision really in reverse. We think about goals, and we think about goals in reverse. And so if we're going to accomplish the vision of what we want our leadership to look like, we've got to first picture it in our minds. We need to see ourselves in that future state. And that's just the beginning, though. And that's the beginning of my story about how I achieved my pilot's license. The process of creation needs some translation. And so the translation was that I took action. I started ground instruction, and I started flying lessons. And these actions then started the process of manifesting skills in my life. And then 6 or 7 months later, after I started, I was a certified private pilot. Now, by doing that, by putting in motion these actions, I created a couple of things. First, I created a model of learning for myself. So whenever I go back and I look at my timeline exercise like you guys did, I go back to this period of my life, and I recognize that this was a period of my life that I created something that I really wanted, and it's a learning model for me, because I learned new skills, and I learned how to do something that I never did before. So every time I went up with my instructor and I tried new skills. I mean, I remember the first time I went up in the airplane and he told me that we were going to do stalls. I had never done that before. I had never felt it before. And just so you know, too, a stall is not when the engine stalls. It's actually when the lift of the wings is not there anymore. And so you tend to just kind of drop over you pitch forward. So that was a new skill. I'd never done it before. So I put some things into action. and then the touch and go process, practicing takeoffs and landings. I mean, that was one that helped me to not only just think step by step, but also just having a procedure to follow. And it gave me the process of repetition of a task in a variety of conditions that really taught me to be adaptive with my skills. Because, if you think about it, there are never two landings or two takeoffs that are the exact same thing, because there are so many variables. The wind direction might be just a little bit different. The wind speed might be different. The weather's different. So I learned to adapt. I learned to create my skills, and then I learned to adapt my skills. And then I think most importantly, one of the things that I did and that happened in this process was just building confidence in myself, because I did something that I had never done before. And when I created these skills that I was able to do, it brought confidence that even though I might fail at doing something, it helped me to realize that that's part of the process. That's part of the process of learning any skill. And it's important for you to recognize this, because we're going to go through some skills in the next section, in the next quarter, that you may feel like you failed at, but just tweak that just a little bit so that you can think about it from a perspective of it's not failure, but it's just many ways in which it doesn't work. And so you can create that learning process. Let me tell you, there were many times my landings were not pretty. And honestly, sometimes they were downright scary. My poor instructor, actually, I think I got paid back, because later I became a flight instructor. And so, I was on the receiving end of some of my students creating some of those failures and some of those learnings in my students and in my teaching. Now, this really is, I think, an important distinction when we think about being a goal achiever and achieving our vision for our leadership, because it's good and it's important for us to recognize that failure is part of the learning process. I mean, I've failed so many times, and I guess when I think about failure, it's really maybe that I failed, but what it is, it's maybe that I just quit trying for a while. And honestly, that's where the magic happens. If you stop doing something for a while and your subconscious mind begins to work on whatever skill or task that you've been working on, it does something magical. And that's really, I think, where the magic happens. It's in that space where you maybe quit for a little while. And so I started thinking about this being a necessary part of goal achievement and a necessary part of learning to achieve my vision. Basically, I said to myself, hey, what if this space of time that I maybe had labeled quitting or failure was actually a natural and necessary part of the process in goal achievement? It's a time and a space in the creative process where you self-evaluate, you contemplate, self-contemplation. And, we've talked a lot about that in here, that experience is not the best teacher, but evaluated experience is the best teacher. And so this process, or this quitting, so to speak, really is a natural expression of the law of rhythm. And sometimes it's really good for a pause so that there's a space, and it's not a space for more action. And honestly, that was a new awareness for me, and that was a new thinking for me, especially if as I thought about that time and space and what it was doing for me. It was actually a time that was strengthening my confidence, and it was allowing me to process things in my mind, and my inner vision then got strengthened. And so even while I was doing nothing, if I held that vision in my mind of that perfect landing, if I held that vision in my mind of the perfect stall and a stall recovery, that image would stay with me and keep me in that goal achievement or that creative process. So what I want you to take from this is that it's not just about physical activity. And this is where I think it's so counterintuitive, because here in the United States especially, we are a hustle and grind kind of mentality, and it's really not about that. That was really hard for me to learn, because I was brought up and programmed by two hardworking entrepreneurs. My mom and dad both were really hardworking. They put in a lot of time. They put in a lot of effort. And so I began to consider, what if I changed my perception of what goal achieving is altogether? And if I started to see it as a creative process. You see, creating a vision and goal setting and goal achieving, I think they're really, really important leadership lessons to learn. And they require a learning model, like everything does, and just like riding a bike. I mean, it's just like, I'm sure that any of you who have ridden a bike, you know that it's a process. It's a learning process, and there's a learning model in that. And if you've watched or listened to my podcast this week, as a matter of fact, I was talking with Mark Miller again. He was on my podcast again for the second time, because he had written a book, or he has written a book called Uncommon Greatness. And one of the fundamentals in that book that he talks about is seeing the future as a leader. So it's a skill that we all need as leaders. Now, going back for a second to learning to ride a bicycle and that model, there's a lot of falling down in that. You could say it's a lot of failure, right? I remember when I was teaching my kids how to ride a bicycle, they fell down a lot. And because I knew they were going to fall down a lot, I also put them in grass. and where we lived at the time, we had a slope to our property. And so I would allow them to ride down the hill. And that way, when they did fall, it wouldn't hurt quite so much. But you were born with the potential to ride the bike. You just had to learn the skill. And you had to learn through falling down. And so that's the thing that I think is important for us to recognize, is that in order for us to achieve a vision, we have to really create a vision as a leader. It's all about learning new skills and falling down, and learning skills and falling down, because we're going to be working on some skills again in the next quarter, and actually going through the rest of this program, where you may fall down, and that's okay. So just keep this in mind, especially when you feel really uncomfortable. I had an experience that maybe even will illustrate this a little better. There was a season in my life when I had this wild idea that I wanted to try something new. And I went and actually tried out for a musical theater production. It was in my hometown, and it was a local civic theater. And I had to audition, and I had to do something that I had never done publicly before. And that was, I had to sing and dance publicly. And you have to understand that I was not either a singer or a dancer. I had never done that in my entire life. Now, I had performed because I was a trumpet player, so I had been on stages, but I hadn't sung, and I definitely didn't dance. But somehow, I auditioned, I got in, I was cast as one of the brothers in the show, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was an amazing musical, and in that process of learning the choreography for one of the dances in particular, we were taught something called clogging, and it's kind of like tap dancing, but without the taps. If any of you are dancers, you probably know even better than I am. I'm probably oversimplifying it, but all I know is that I was not getting it. The song was fast, and it was such a new skill that I was getting frustrated, and I was kind of giving up. And the thing I did, though, is I reached out to a younger kid in the cast who had danced all of his life, and I asked him to help me. And so rather than just giving up, he came alongside me, and he helped me really to get my balance, as it were, using the bicycle terminology or the bicycle model. He helped me find some ways to practice and practice a little bit slower. He gave me some shortcuts, and he let me try that out. And then he gave me some feedback, and he had me try it again. And trust me, it was not good by any stretch of the imagination, but I knew that I would get to a point, and I did get to a point, where I wasn't going to stick out like a sore thumb during the performance. So I created dance in my life, but it took repetition, and it took asking for help. It took feedback, and it took even time not doing anything, but thinking about it and holding the image of what it looked like in my mind, what that image and that model of perfection looked like. So there are two thoughts here that I just want to put forward to you today. First, make the shift from looking at goal setting and achieving as something that you can't do if that's your frame of reference, or you're a failure at it. Begin to see goal setting and achieving as a part of a natural creative process. It's about creation and creating that vision that you've seen in your mind and bringing it into reality. And the second thing that I would just offer to you here today too is that when you make the shift in your perception, you could begin to detach from the outcome and really separate your self-value from your result. Because the real important part of this is that you are not your result. Let me say that again, because it's really, really important. You are not your result. And man, I'm telling you, it's taken me a long time to come to this awareness for me personally. For a long time, I thought that my results were who I was. And so not only will you feel 1,000% more confident, 1,000 times happier, 1,000 times freer, you're going to create and manifest your vision and achieve your goals 1,000 times faster. And so the reason that we define our purpose and our vision and our goals is so that we can consciously direct this creative process. We can be intentional about it. So the thing that you need to remember here is that whether we're talking about our corporate lives or our personal lives, we're creating a future. Whether you know it or not, we're creating a future. And so it happens either by default or you can do it by design. And I'm going to suggest that we want to do this by design. And when we do it by design, when we funnel this creative power by design, it's so much more empowering. And our purpose, our vision, and our goals are all just roadmaps that this powerful creation will follow. And so when we create our vision that comes from our purpose, then our goals will help us to create the steps and the milestones to achieve that vision. So understanding, awareness, and self-evaluation are all tools that you'll use to strengthen your ability to live from your purpose and to really to achieve your vision through your goals. And that's honestly how and why I've designed this program, is to be able to help you gain understanding and awareness of yourself first, And then I'm going to guide you through a process of self-evaluation and continual improvement and continual trying new things. So let me just do something here real quick, and let me just define purpose. So purpose is the filter through which you're going to direct this creative power. It's the why. It's why you do what you do. And that way you can create what you feel is your highest calling or your highest good in your life and in your leadership. So it's the filter. And there's really two approaches to purpose that I'm going to talk about today. First, from an individual perspective or your individual purpose. And then second, from a corporate perspective or your company purpose. So many of you will, maybe be thinking about it from your company perspective, and that's fine. A lot of people get hung up on this, and it's really not uncommon for you to maybe have not ever thought about what your life's purpose is. And if that's you, that's fine. Just don't worry about it. It's a skill. It's like riding a bike. You just have to try some things out. And so I'm going to give you some things that you can do to discover your purpose. And you think about, going back to the bike riding thing, when you first tried the bike, you had to at least get it on the bike. You had to have a desire to do that. So hopefully today, this is your desire. And I'm cultivating that desire for you to figure out your life's purpose. And really, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. Just guess. Maybe put your best guess forward. I think we all at least have some semblance of understanding about what we've been put on the earth to do. And I want you to be thinking about this, and I'm going to give you some examples and some things, some thought exercises to walk through before our next session. So my purpose personally is to bring out the best in leaders and in companies and teams by helping them unlock their human potential and to create value through a heart-centered approach to company growth and culture by developing the leaders within those organizations. So that's part of my purpose. That's my business purpose. Now, I have a lot of different opportunities that come to me, some business opportunities, some things that want to get put onto my calendar. And so I have to use that as a filter. Is it in alignment? Is it in harmony? And I use that to be able to decide if it's a match or if it's not a match. Your purpose is really like the sun, and everything revolves around it. So let me just give you a short exercise to think about your purpose here. And that is to think about these questions to evaluate your purpose. And we're going to put these in the chat. So, you'll be able to capture those. Just click the three little dots and then save your chat so that you've got these questions. So the first is, when are you at your very best being you? What are you doing? Who are you with? What are you feeling? What outcome are you seeing? So here are those questions again. When are you at your very best being you? And when you are at your very best being you, what are you doing? Who are you with? What are you feeling? What outcomes are you seeing? And if you need this again, you can just rewind the recording, which will be on our platform. Just go, watch the recording, and you can rewind to this point in the video. But from your purpose, then you begin to create your vision. And I've found this to be the most powerful, productive activity of really in the creative process. And to me, the time you spend writing your vision gives you, I think, the biggest bang for your time buck. Now, your vision statement is a detailed description of you living in the full achievement and presence of your purpose in present tense. Your vision is going to include things that you're aware of for you to fulfill your purpose, the action steps, as well as, the future achievements. What does it look like? What do you want to have? All of the goals that you that you want to achieve. Your vision statement is really the connector between your purpose and your goals. And it's really a breathing and living document because it can change. Your vision is going to change as your awareness expands. Just like over the past 3 months, we've been working on expanding your self-awareness. So things have changed by today that you didn't have, at the beginning of this program. And so as you grow in your leadership and as you grow in your self-awareness, your vision is going to grow and expand. And I think it's really important to spend time with your vision, probably more so than with your goals or your purpose. I think you're going to find that it's ultimately your vision that will drive your goals and sharpen your clarity of your purpose. So the vision statement is a perfect place to start, especially if you're lacking clarity around your purpose. You probably have some kind of idea about your purpose, but create the vision statement and start writing what you want your life to be. What do you want it to feel like? What do you want it to look like? What type of friends do you want to have? What type of relationships do you want? What type of home do you want? What type of clients do you want? What type of leader do you want to be? What type of habits do you want to have? Every aspect of your life should be created in this statement, in this document. So in your mind, go to the future you. Go to the future of your company. Go to the future of your career, your leadership, and describe what it looks like. This is the future of your leadership. What does it look like? And so, honestly, this is not a one-time write. You're going to write it again, and you're going to go back, and you're going to edit. You're going to make it clearer. And it should be fun, really. It should be exciting. Should be, a feeling of hopeful expectation. It should fill your soul, because the vision statement is ultimately going to be the highest expression of your awareness at this time in your life and in this time in your leadership journey. So then from your vision statement, you can begin to identify your goals, your short-term goals, your long-term goals. And really the biggest challenge in creating the vision and the goals is your own inner voice, and your inner voice's need to know how you're going to fulfill them. How are you going to get to that vision? And so what I want you to be able to do is suspend that need to know how. Suspend the how for now. Because a really big part of our reasoning mind wants to know how, and it gets stuck there, and it gets stuck in thinking beyond this question. So if this is you, just suspend that. Just suspend that need to know how for right now. Stay in the land of possibility. Ask yourself, what could be possible? How might I create this life that I want, this leadership journey that I'm on? What have other people accomplished? How did they accomplish something similar? So likely your inner voice is going to ask you this question or some version of it. Hey, how you going to do that? How are you going to do that? So just quiet that voice and suspend your need to know how, and just stay in that land of possibility. So with your purpose and a vision, you begin to then focus on goals, and your goals are going to come from that vision. And sometimes it's directly from your vision, and sometimes it's a way to live your vision. And so the purpose of your goal is to really benchmark your progress and really just to help you to grow into the person who is living your purpose and carrying out and living the vision that you've created. It's all about you becoming the best version of you and the best leadership version of you. So who are you becoming as a leader? Who are you becoming as a company? That's really the purpose of goals. And so I want to suggest that if you in the past have had, had a struggle achieving your goals, just set some very short-term goals. Set some day goals that are going to allow you to gain confidence in your ability to keep your word, to honor your commitments, especially that commitment to yourself. That's a really, really vital part of goal achievement. So let me just finish here by saying there are a couple of key takeaways that I hope you take from today. And that is that your vision is the connector between your purpose and your goals, both corporately and individually. So your vision is the connector. And then creating your vision requires you to go into the future in your mind and create. You create first in your mind. And as a leader, we have to imagine the future. We have to see the future. That's that fundamental from Mark Miller's book, Uncommon Greatness. See the future. And then your vision needs a translator. And that translator really is actions. So your actions are going to be perfect, and that's okay. That's the value of your learning model. You're going to keep trying, and you're going to keep moving, and you're going to keep learning. So if we want to have a company, if we want to have an organization or a team, a life that we've never had, it takes creation, and it takes creating a vision that we imagine. And as leaders, we're all creators. We're all helping to shape and create both our companies and our lives. And I hope that today's lesson is helpful for you. And I'd like to just pose a question here today for you. And that is, what's been your biggest learning about yourself this quarter? What's been the most meaningful or most valuable thing for you thus far?